Did I break the PTS? No, not really. I didn't break it. But what I did do in the PTS, and I promise you no one else in the entire community has tried this, but I have maxed out all of the permanent buffs in our global modifier in Woney, in Brooklyn, and in DC. And I can show you where the permanent buffs will last, where they start, and why. Hey, I see you, bro. What up, brother? Anyways, in today's video, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how far these permanent buffs last, because there are some areas of the game where you will not get these permanent buffs. So without further ado, let me break it down for you. Here we go. What's going on, YouTube? Kamikazevondoom here with another Division 2 PTS video. Now, PTS, you can see in the top right of your screen, it says PTS with a serial number and my gamer tag. That means I am in the public test server. Now, this is the public test server for Year 7 Season 2, and this is set to go live in September. But we are testing it now. That way they can, iron out any bugs or what have you. So, what am I talking about? Permanent buffs. What am I talking about, right? So let's break it down. The brand new modifiers that are added to the game will give you some insane damage numbers and RPM. So you can see right here that my Pestilence is at a 142k base damage at 1318 RPM. And that's just sitting here without anything added to it. You can see my Iron Lungs over 1100, my Capacitors over 1000 RPM, Eagle Bearer, St. Elmo's over 1200 RPM, so on and so forth, right? And that is all because of the new global modifier. So here's the new global modifier. It's called Divide and Conquer. And I will do several videos on the new modifiers because there's so much to break down and talk about. But we are only going to be talking about the global modifier because this is what will affect all players next season as long as you have the modifiers turned on. So the global modifier is called Divide and Conquer. Now these zones do not reset, okay? They don't reset. And I think that might be because of the retaliation part of the game, what have you, but none of the control points will reset at all. I have all of them, and I've had all of them for, a day and a half now? And you can see all of my control points are green, everything good to go. Now, what that does is it gives me all of these extra buffs. So it says here that you gain rate of fire for each contested named zone on your current map. And you can gain up to 30% of rate of fire and weapon damage for each named zone that you have under shade control. So in other words, what you do is you control your map and you get all these bonuses. Now these are permanent buffs. These will help you in legendary content. These will help you in the missions. These will help you for the strongholds. Some of them. All right. Now that's where this video is going to go into. And this is why it's the whole did I break the PTS thing? Because I found out where these permanent buffs do not go. So I'm going to show you all of that and more in today's video. So if that sounds good, well, you know the whole YouTube spiel. Sit back, relax, grab that popcorn. Don't forget to hit that like, subscribe if you haven't already, and let me know what you think in the comment section below. And finally, shout out where you're from. It's cool to see where everyone is from. But the number one question that I was getting is legendary strongholds. Will this work in legendary strongholds? So let's go check it out. Now, we're going to test this out in numerous areas, just so you know. That way, if there are any questions at all, I answer them in today's video.
We're ready to take down the council.
So here is a legendary stronghold right here.
Don't let anything stand in your way.
And if I look at my build, I still have 1318, 142. And if I go to my modifier, it shows that I still have 30% ROF and 30% damage. So, yes, it does work for your legendary strongholds. Now, if I come over here to Capitol Building, throw it on legendary over here, let's check it out. Now, like I said, it's not going to be all of them. And I'll show you that here in just a second.
But more important than
So here's Capitol Building, Legendary. All right, we're in Legendary. It still shows 142, 1318 for the RPM. And if I go to the modifier, it shows that it's still maxed out, right? All right. Now here's where we already know it's going to work in Tidal Basin, all right? So let's go over here to Manning National Zoo. Now, if you guessed that it's not going to work in Manning National Zoo, well, you might deserve a cookie, because you're right. So here we are, Manning National Zoo, heroic, turn it to legendary, let's go. All right.
got your objective. Don't let anything stand in your way.
Now, I'm at 128 and 1063 on the RPM. If I go to my modifiers, you can see that my modifiers are turned on. However, I am getting 0 rate of fire and 0 weapon damage. So it does not work in Manning National Zoo. So your typical, Capitol Building, DUA, Tidal Basin, all of those on Legendary, sure, it works. It works very well. But once you leave your map, it will not work.
Safe area detected.
So let's see. Let's go to Camp White Oak. And we do have to test each of these to see if they actually work or not. Because some of these areas would technically be a part of it, but we'll see. We shall see. All right, so now we're in Capitol Building. Or no, this is Camp White Oak. My bad. And let's do this. I forgot there are so many. Oh, we can't do Camp White Oak on Legendary, can we? Whatever. All right, so we load up the recruiter. And
Glad you can make it. When you land, leave the server and start a sweep. I'll get the server from Fernanda and cover you.
you can see here that 128 and 1063.
I've been waiting for you.
So it's seeming as if it's only per map, okay? So you have to be inside of that open world. Now, as far as classified assignments, those do not work because your modifiers do not work with the classified assignments. But just for the sake of argument, let me show you. All right, so we're at, which one's this? National Bond Armory, Heroic. Load this sucker in. We're going to hear a lot of NPCs talk, so I'm going to try to cut them off as fast as I can. All right, here we go.
Have this area locked down. You're gonna need to breach the entrance.
Okay, so we're in the classified assignment, and you can see modifiers do not work here. They're actually grayed out. And you can see that my damage jumped back down again to 128 and 1063 for the RPM. So they do not work in classified assignments. So we're just knocking off all of these checklist boxes. I'm showing you the limits of your permanent buffs. Because it seems as if they keep them green, and then you just keep doing things to get the retaliation. Now, yes, you could go to your open world and hit reset control points and do it that way. But once you get them all taken over, I mean, you can see none of my control points have any sort of like battle going on. There's no NPC takeovers, nothing. All right. So next, Roosevelt Island. This one will work. We already know it'll work. It's in the open world. So let's go over to, Pentagon. So we'll try the Pentagon, then we'll try Coney Island, and then I'll show you what actually surprised me in Warlords of New York and Brooklyn, because those still give you the same buffs, and they're permanent. So you can use them for all the missions, you can use them for all the open world activities, you can use them for everything in these open worlds. But now that we are here in the Pentagon, you can see that my buffs are now back down again. but it shows that my modifiers are active, but I have 0 zones that I can take over. So these permanent buffs are only going to be active on the maps. So anything outside of your main maps, they're not going to work. Now, I want to say maybe Countdown. Well, we'll try Countdown. We'll try it. And Summit. That's right. Summit 2. Summit 2. We got this. All right. So we load back in. All right.
Safe area detected.
So we're back at the White House. We'll test a few more things here, and then we're going to go to Brooklyn and Woney. So first up, let's go to the Summit, because you can still use your modifiers in the Summit. So let's try that out. And if you haven't already hit the thumbs up yet, what are you waiting on? Come on, hit the like, support the channel, and let me know what you think in the comments section below. But I'm showing you all of these limitations on the permanent buffs that we get. Okay, so right here at the Summit, again, 0 and 0 for those buffs. So my 145 dropped back down to 128. Okay, so Summit is a no-go for the permanent buffs. So it's seeming as if we would just have to stay in those open world areas, and then you're good to go. As soon as you leave that open world area for any reason, it turns off your global modifier buff.
Entering safe area.
So let's see, what would be... Well, we know Coney Island's not going to work because that's not a part of DC either. But let's go ahead and check it out, just in case. But I'm pretty sure it's not going to work. It's seeming it has to be connected to an open world where you have control points. But as soon as you leave that area, it's gone.
Safe area detected.
And I know that I keep saying it over and over, but that's exactly what we're testing here in today's video. All right, so here we go. It's back down to 128. Modifiers are on, but I am getting 0 buffs from the Divide and Conquer. All right, so that is it for the DC area and the surrounding parts of your map. Now it's time to get into some juicy things. So the next one people want to know is raid, right? Because the raid is right here next to the map, but again, you're going to have to fast travel to it, right? So check this out. So if we go to the raid, boom, open up. Let's do dark hours.
Occupied the Washington National Airport to bring in troops, equipment, supplies, and God knows what else. We need to shut down this operation if we're going to have any chance of countering these assholes.
But I'm going to guess right now that it's not going to work in Countdown or the raids either. But we're still going to test it out. I don't want to leave any, rock unturned. That way we have all of our questions answered about these permanent buffs. All right, so here's the Dark Hours raid. And we're at 128, 1063, and there's no modifiers. All right, so the raid is a no-go. All right. So that's done. What else have I not checked? Oh, Countdown. Okay. So Countdown, and then we'll do Woney and Brooklyn and get you out of here. Because I went ahead and I took over Woney and Brooklyn, and you'd be surprised. A lot of people, including myself, thought, well, you would get the biggest buff in DC, but that's not true. So I'll show you that here in just a second. Let's go over to Countdown. Create. And start. But these buffs are going to be really useful. Really, really useful. You're going to be able to play, what, 80% of the legendary? All of those legendaries. I mean, you can't do Summit on legendary because that's not going to work. But you can do Tidal and Roosevelt and DUA and Capital. You can do all of those with these permanent buffs.
Communication relay offline.
Rikers have taken the power plant. Not sure what they're trying to do with the nuclear reactor, but they've triggered the safety protocols. The plant is going into lockdown.
Here we go, here we go, here we go now.
We need to get control of the experimental reactor.
Okay, so now we're in Countdown.
Reactor unstable.
Oh, the buffs do not work in Countdown. Okay. Now I'm still getting the other modifiers, but not that global modifier buff. And that's exactly what we're looking for, is that global modifier buff. Okay. So that answers all of the DC questions. Now let's go into New York and answer all of those questions. Because as soon as I showed people these permanent buffs, they were going cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. First off, they were saying that the enemies are just going to keep taking over the control points, and that's not true. As soon as I took them all over, they've never been taken back or anything ever. Not once. Not any of them. So what was the last thing I was going to check? We did Countdown. We did all of the missions. We did Pentagon. I think that's it for all of these. Okay. Yeah, we're good. All right. Now let's go to New York City. So first up, let's go to Brooklyn. Brooklyn! And check out these buffs.
Safe area detected.
All right. So for Brooklyn, there's a few things I want to point out. First up, the buffs are the exact same. Look at this. Just by taking over 2 named zones, you get all 30% rate of fire and 30% weapon damage. So you do get all of the permanent buffs here in Brooklyn. And all I had to do was take over the 4 control points, and that's it. Now I have the complete, buff. Where you have to take over 11 zones in Washington, D.C., you only have to take over 2 zones here in Brooklyn. Pretty cool. Now, there are a few things, though, that I want to show you. So first up, if you go to a normal mission in Brooklyn, you should be able to see the same effect. But if you leave Brooklyn and do another mission, you'll see. All right, so here's Sierra Clinic.
Thank you for coming, Agent. We need you to sweep for survivors and secure the clinic.
And you
Cleaners
can
on site.
see we're at 142, 1318.
Scanning for survivors.
And you can see that we have all of the buffs. So it does work for the missions in Brooklyn, okay? So the next thing would be, does it work for the missions outside of Brooklyn? Because technically you're still in Brooklyn, right? But you're not in the open world anymore. And there's no named zones. So check this out. Put on heroic. Let's go.
Agent, cleaners on site. We'll find Danvers later. Right now, I need you to find the
Oh!
Wayne workshop and shut it down.
Yo, it does work. What? Okay. So the buffs work for all Brooklyn missions. Well, that's different. Okay. Well, I'm not even mad. I'm impressed. So that means that you can actually use the permanent buffs for all Brooklyn missions. But here's the caveat, and I'll show you as soon as it loads up. All right. So here's the caveat. There's no retaliation. So you can see in the top left of your screen, right next to bounties, it's supposed to say retaliations. And it doesn't say it because there are no retaliations in Brooklyn. All right? So the buffs do work. The permanent buffs work in all of Brooklyn. All you have to do is take over the 2 zones, being Brooklyn Heights and Dumbo, and then you can use it for all of the missions and everything for Battle for Brooklyn. Now let's jump over to Haven, and then we'll get you out of here. So there are 11 zones to capture in DC. There are only 2 zones to capture in Brooklyn. And now let's check out Warlords of New York. So I think the Brooklyn missions are the only ones where you can travel outside of the map and still get the buff. That's pretty cool. All right, so here we are in Warlords of New York. And for here, you only have to take over 4 named zones. And then you get the same 30% rate of fire and 30% weapon damage. So it does work in all zones, and it does give you the same buff in all zones. Now, the thing with Brooklyn, let's see, all of the missions and everything are within the open world, so that tells me that everything should work in the open, for the buffs in the open world. So let's just test out Stranded Tanka, and then we'll get you out of here. I'm pretty sure I've tested everything. I think I have met the limits of these permanent buffs.
Time to take down Vivian Conley and hopefully get us one step
All
closer
right,
to
here we
finding
go.
that son of a bitch Keener. We know that patrols of cleaners regularly
Yep.
head out to the west gate of their
Still
oil
get 30 and
refinery.
30.
Let's exploit that opportunity and
All right.
infiltrate their complex.
A lot of peacekeepers are dead because Keener's been using Conley.
So let's just do a full overview. The permanent buffs are the same in all open worlds, Woney, DC, and Brooklyn. You can do all of those missions and everything as long as it's attached to the open world, except for... oh, hold on. I need to show you the Woney retaliations. My bad. There are retaliations in Woney, but there's not retaliations in Brooklyn. So you can do a retaliation in DC and Woney, and then you can do the permanent buffs in all 3 zones, including Brooklyn. Okay. So here we are in Warlords of New York, and then you can see right here, Retaliation. You have Cleaners and Rikers, but you cannot do this in Battle for Brooklyn. Okay. Now, full breakdown. Pentagon, Camp White Oak, Manning National Zoo, Countdown, Summit, all of those things you cannot. The Raid, all of those things do not have the buffs. But everything else, you do get those permanent buffs. All you have to do is take over all of the control points, and you are good to go. It's really cool. Really cool indeed. But let me know what you think in the comment section below. Is this going to be like a good thing for the community? Is this going to be a bad thing for the community? Is this going to make you want to play the game or not? Let's discuss. But that's it for me. I'm Kamikazevondoom. I hope you have a great day. Take care of yourself, and I'll see you in the next one, all right? Peace out.